Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Cryptogenic here. I just want to talk to you for a few minutes. I just want to talk. Is anybody with me? Can anybody see me? I'm just going to wait a couple minutes for a few people to show up. First, let me make sure that this stream is public. Testing 1, 2, 3. I got something important to talk to you about today. I haven't gone live in a minute. So, all right, what's going on here? Yes, I am a human. It's pretty bloody. But I got some important things to talk to you about. So if you're with me, give me a shout, and I'll be right with you. Come on, CAPTCHA. GP, are you with me? Cryptogenic here. Just want to talk. I want to talk to you today about why every crypto investor needs a solid dose of Viktor Frankl right now. Thank you to those of you who have joined me. We're going to start in just a second. Just a moment. We're going to talk about what's going on in this market. Drop me a comment if you're with me. Drop me a comment. Let me know that you're here. Drop me a line in the chat letting me know that you're with me. We're going to talk about some important stuff today. Say hello to me. There you are, Brenda. I got somebody. Rambler, you there too, buddy? All right. Biff Bifford. All right, Biff. Andres Encinas, how you doing? Good to see you folks today. All right, I'm just going to jump in here because I just got something on my mind that I want to talk to you about today. Thanks, Jamie. I appreciate that a lot. Welcome to the Cryptosphere. This is Cryptogenic coming at you. Today is Wednesday, June 15th at 6:48 p.m. here in Northern California. I am going live today just to talk to you about some important stuff. I've titled this video, Why Every Crypto Investor Needs a Good Dose of Viktor Frankl Right Now. Every crypto investor needs a dose of Viktor Frankl right now, and I'm going to tell you why. So I just got finished reading Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning. Frankl, he was a Holocaust survivor and medical doctor, as well as a psychologist. And he writes the book to try to answer a question. And the question was, what was the difference between those who survived the Holocaust and those who didn't. Specifically, there were three types of people who went into the concentration camps. The first group of people were ushered directly into the incinerators. Big Russ, good to see you, brother. It's been a minute. The first group of people, they were ushered directly into the incinerators. So they had no choice. They were just dead. The second group of people died of their own accord. Not of their own accord, but the conditions got to them, right? Nick Dogg was cracking. But the third group of people survived. So the question was, Viktor Frankl observed that there were, within the group of people that were not incinerated, were not sent into the gas chambers, the question was, what gave a certain group of them the ability, what empowered them to endure and to survive through all of that? And he tells some stories that I thought were just pretty incredible. I mean, number one, we cannot even, none of us, those of us who did not go through the Holocaust, we cannot even dream about, we cannot even fathom what it was like for those individuals to suffer the way they suffered. We can't even fathom it. I mean, it's beyond the level of dehumanization, the morbidity. It was crazy. The stories that he tells are crazy, and it's a miracle that he made it out alive. But what he discovered at the end, in hindsight, was that there was a particular mindset that made him a survivor, and there were many others that adopted the same mindset. So here's one story. I'm getting to how this applies to the crypto market momentarily. Just stick with me for a few minutes. In one story he tells, there was a gentleman who had a dream in which he felt that God had given him the date of his liberation. And he told Victor, that date will be March 30th. Now, he told Victor this on March 1st. So he lived from March 1st to March 30th with the expectation that Liberation Day is coming on March 30th. That the Germans are going to surrender. We're going to be liberated from this concentration camp on March 30th. That was his expectation. And March 30th came, and there was no liberation. And by the evening, this gentleman, this man, was very ill, and by the next morning, he was dead. So Viktor Frankl comments on this, and he says, in the natural, in the physical, he died of, and he named the physical conditions that the man was suffering from. He said, but the reality was this man died of disappointment. He died of a broken heart. The first insight that Viktor Frankl brings to the table is that the why is more important than the when and the how. The why is more important than the when and the how. And that if you got the right why, you can endure any when and any how. And conversely, if you're not able to endure a particular when or a particular how, it's because you don't have the right why. And this was the insight that I thought was so poignant. He said most people in those concentration camps, their why, the reason in their minds for their existence, and the reason why they did not just commit suicide, as many did in these concentration camps. They killed themselves. They hung themselves. They walked up to electric fences and grabbed them, and that was apparently the most popular way to kill yourself. Others of them just gave up on life, and there were particular indications that someone had given up. And once you gave up, you were dead within a couple of days, 2 to 3 days. But the why that most people clung to, embraced in their own minds, was that there was something they wanted to get out of life. There was something they wanted to get out of life. And he said all of these individuals who lived to get something out of life eventually succumbed to disappointment and despair and became hopeless and gave up. And they would even say to him, many of them would say to him, I just don't expect to get anything else out of life. There's nothing else that I have to hope for in life. All of my hope is gone. I've got no hope of getting anything else out of life. And he said whenever someone would say that to him, he would intentionally try to disrupt that thought process and shift their thinking. He would say, well, do you have a wife? Do you have any children? Do you have a mother? Do you have a father? Do you have any sisters or brothers? And what he was alluding to is that there are people in this world who still need to get something out of you. In other words, his philosophy revolves around this insight, that the most powerful why is not, I live to get something out of life, but a more powerful why is, life is going to get something out of me, meaning I have something more to contribute. I have something more to give. So I'm going to go through whatever I have to go through in order to get back home and see my daughter, because she needs me. So I'll walk through whatever I have to walk through to get back to her. I'll walk through whatever I have to walk through to reunite with my wife. I'll walk through whatever I have to walk through to get back to see if my mother is still alive or my father. These were the kinds of whys that motivated the individuals who found the stamina to maintain their sense of hope through the most hopeless situation. It's not about what you can get out of life. It's about what life can get out of you. And if you live for what you can get out of life, you're going to become hopeless much quicker than the person who lives for what life can get out of me. And so that insight gave birth to this realism about the severity of their situation. Because the people who were living to get something out of life, they were grasping for hope, but the only way to find hope was to convince themselves that life was about to ante up any moment. Our Liberation Day is next week. We're going to be out by the summer. We're going to be liberated by June. Before the flowers of May disappear, we're going to be liberated. It's going to be by this time. And they would come up with these arbitrary numbers, and then they would convince themselves in their own mind that all I have to do is hang on for another 30 days and we're going to be free. And those 30 days would come and go, and then those individuals would become despondent. Now, do you see how this relates to crypto investing? Because we can convince ourselves it's going to happen by this date, it's going to happen by this time, it's going to happen in this way to this degree. And then when it doesn't happen, we become despondent, we become disappointed, we become discouraged, we become hopeless, not realizing that our real problem is that we're living to get something out of life instead of living so that life can get something out of us. The way I would articulate that in my coaching schema is that living for achievement rather than living to make a contribution. Living for what I can get rather than living for what I can give. If I live for achievement, I may never make a contribution, but if I live to make a contribution, I'll make many achievements on the way. It's really about becoming selfless, isn't it? It's about cultivating a sense of vision that forces me to give my life away. And once I adopt that, Viktor Frankl, he talked about, thanks, Russ. Thanks, Truck Boy. He said that they would just look at each other and say, we're not going to be out by the end of March. It's not going to happen. Stop talking about it. Stop dreaming about it. It's not going to happen. If we survive, we're going to get out when we get out. If we survive. Not all of us will survive. But it was just, there was a sense of realism about it. And that was the second kind of conclusion that this insight led him to. He told a story in the book, a parable, about a servant who met death. And when he met death, he was so terrified that he ran to his master and said, I've met death. Please give me your fastest horse so that I can flee to Tehran. And so his master gave him his fastest horse, and he fled to Tehran. And later that day, the master ran into death. And the master said, why did you terrify my servant? And Death said, I didn't. I was just surprised to see him because I was planning on meeting him later in Tehran. And so the meaning of that parable is that when you flee to avoid something, you tend to flee right into the hands of the thing that you're trying to avoid. And that, Viktor Frankl actually experienced that again and again and again and again. In one particular instance, a group of trucks came in and started loading people in. And they told them all that they were going to take them to a rest camp where they could recover. This is towards the end of the war. They're thinking, you know, the ceasefire, the surrender is soon, and the Nazis are starting to, you know, tone down, wind this thing down. And but Viktor could not get on he couldn't get on these trucks because he was a physician and he was caring for all the patients. And one of his friends came to him with tears in his eyes and said, I've spoken to the commander on your behalf, and if you want to, you can get on the truck. You can leave your post. And he smiled at his friend and said, no, I won't be leaving. And his friend said, why? And his friend said, don't you know that you can die here? And he says, yes, but if I die here, I'll die doing something meaningful with my life. In other words, he thought, I'm not going to try to flee from this situation. I'm just going to stay right here and walk it out. And whatever comes of it, I'm going to walk it out. And so he stays behind, only to find out later that everyone who got on those trucks was immediately taken to the incinerators and killed, murdered, slaughtered. And he experienced that in two other times as well. Another time, he was told to leave. And someone came to him and said, I've spoken to the commander and you can stay if you want. And he said, no, this is my destiny. This is my direction. I'm not going to try to fight it. I'm not going to try to change it. I know I may be going to my death, but if I go to my death, I go to my death. He just embraced it, only to find out later that everyone who stayed behind this time was incinerated. And then it happened a third time, where this time he really wanted to get on the trucks because they were going to he thought they were going to a rest place. But they wouldn't let him on the truck, and he was angry. And then he found out later that everyone who got on those trucks was incinerated. So he experienced again and again and again that any time he tried to flee from the present suffering, from the present moment, fleeing would have taken him right into the arms of the thing that he was trying to avoid. So he just embraced it. And there was just this sense that in this life, there's a certain amount of suffering that I just have to endure. Period. Stuff I just got to walk through. Period. You see why every crypto investor needs this? Because we who have been in this crypto market for any length of time, we all have post-traumatic stress syndrome, don't we? And to varying degrees, we go through these seasons where we're up in the middle of the night checking the charts on the way to the bathroom. You go to the bathroom to pee, and you got to check the charts to see where you are. And we put so much of our hopes and dreams in this thing that is so volatile, so unstable. Do I believe in the crypto market? Of course. I believe crypto is not just the future, it's the present. Do I believe this bear market is going to extend forever? No. You guys have seen all of my technical analysis videos, and you know that I believe the bull market starts the moment the bear market hits bottom. We don't know where the bottom is, and that's the key, is that all of us technical analysts that draw lines on charts, we have zero control over the market. We can draw lines on charts, but all we're doing is making hypothetical predictions. These are hypotheses based on the past, which I believe is useful. And I believe it's important. Otherwise, I wouldn't do it. I believe it's very helpful, and I think some of you believe the same thing. But we have no control over the market. Analysis is not control. And oftentimes we can get a sense almost of control, because if I can predict with 100% accuracy where the market is going to go, it feels like I'm controlling it. It's just as good as controlling it. The fact of the matter is, nobody can. Nobody can predict that. It's funny, I've been watching a bunch of videos from a bunch of different technical analysts, and all of us were wrong on so many different points. All of us. And all of us were right somewhere. We had something we were right about. And we had other stuff that we were wrong about. So I could sit here and talk to you about the stuff I was right about, and I could sit here and tell you the stuff I was wrong about. The fact of the matter is, I have zero control of the market. And this is the thing that Viktor Frankl said. This is the thing that Viktor Frankl said that I thought was so powerful. He said, no matter what anyone does to you, there's one thing that they can never take away from you. And that is your ability to determine your attitude. Did you get that? The one thing nobody can ever take away from me is my attitude. My attitude comes from my perspective. There's a difference between emotion and attitude. Emotion is involuntary. Attitude is voluntary. Emotion happens to you. You shouldn't try to change your emotions, because you can't change your emotions. But you can change your attitude. Your attitude is a choice. And so emotion, perspective, and then attitude. That's the order. That's how it happens. Yeah. So I hope this doesn't sound too morbid or depressing. I mean this as a word of encouragement. When I say this is a word of encouragement, what I mean is we're going to get through this. But when? I've got my theories. I've shown you the evidence for my theories. But at the end of the day, none of us know. I was watching the blockchain backer earlier today, and he's like, the bottom? I have no clue where the bottom is. We're in uncharted territory right now. I can't even predict where the bottom is. We're below the 200 moving average on the weekly chart. The next support is the 300. Bitcoin has never touched the 300-week moving average. So that, I would say, that's the best place to say it will be support. That's at a little over 16, about 16,500, something like that. But who knows if we break beneath there. Bitcoin has pulled back 83%. This would be the third time. If it pulls back 83%, we're going down to $11,000. I got a lot to talk about. I want to talk about Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy, because there's a lot of talk about, are they being liquidated? You know, did they get margin called? And I don't believe they did. And I think there's evidence for understanding why. But I think today, I'm not even looking at any charts in this video. Because, I end every video by saying, make every effort to sleep in peace every night, wake in joy every morning, and walk in love every day. And I mean that. That is my life mission statement, to sleep in peace, to wake in joy, and to walk in love. If I let something rob me of my sleep at night, it robs me of my joy in the morning. If I let something rob me of my joy in the morning, it robs me of my love during the day. And I find I'm not walking in love. And you want to know what love is? It's easy. 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 4. Love is patient. Love is kind. We can stop there. It goes on. It does not envy. It does not boast. It's not self-seeking. It's not easily provoked. It doesn't rejoice in iniquity, but it rejoices in the truth. It always endures. It always believes. It always protects, and it always perseveres. Love never fails. It's all of this stuff about love is there, but we could stop right at the beginning. Love is patient, and love is kind. Patience is the ability to tolerate an extended wait. And kindness is the ability to extend love. My wife's calling me, so I got to go. Hello? I'm in my office. Yeah, hold on. I'll be right there. I'll be right out, okay? Yeah, I did. I'm finishing up a video. I'll be right there, okay? Hold on. Yeah, I got to go. But just remember, sleep in peace, wake in joy, walk in love, and everything else will work itself out. This is Cryptogenic signing out. Thanks so much, Nick Dog. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Brenda. Thanks, Pollywog. Thanks, Truckboy386, Leanne, all of you. Eli, Big Russ,